first part. It's just, we went through the tables, okay? All right, cosine squared plus sine squared equals what?
1.
Uno.
Yes.
B. What's 1 minus cosine times 1 plus cosine? Well, what kind of problem does this look like? I kind of start cheating and leaving off the angle, like instead of putting cosine or theta, just put cosine.
Foil.
It's like a foil. That was a test. You passed. If you foil it, you guys remember what conjugates were? You don't really have to foil the whole thing. You just foil you do the first and the last. So the first is 1 times 1 is 1. The last is negative cosine times cosine. Negative cosine squared. Okay, does this ring a bell? 1 minus cosine squared? Let's go back in time. Oh, looky right there. This is one of our sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. If that's true, then if you subtract cosine squared, then sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. Okay, so anytime you see a sine squared or a cosine squared, it's going to be related to that equation. So this is just equal to sine squared. I think they were actually using theta on this problem. Well, it's just a variable. It doesn't really matter what variable they use. That was B. C. Sine is very similar. A little bit tricky. All right, what would we get if we foiled those two together?
Sine squared minus 1.
Sine squared minus 1. Okay, sometimes I drop the angle for temporarily. What's that equal to? Well, let's go back. What's that basic equation? It's sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So how can I transform it into that? Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah, if I subtract cosine squared and subtract 1, these two kind of switch places, right? So if I subtract 1 over here, and then I subtract cosine squared, and that's gone, I get sine squared minus 1 over here, right? Equals negative cosine squared. So that's going to be, that's what it is. Sine squared minus 1 is equal to negative cosine squared. I'll throw the theta back in there. So that would be that. Okay, on 3A, 1 plus cotangent squared.
Is that tangent squared?
No. Okay, so let's flip back to page 317. So, no, instead of me scrolling up to the top of the page, what's the bottom? Remember the squared stuff at the bottom? So what's 1 plus cotangent squared equal to? Ding, ding, ding. Cotangent squared. I'm not going to have you memorize this one for the test, but I did have them memorize this one, or the sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Just, I don't, because it's used a lot more. I figured we can at least do that. Okay, 3B. What would we get if we foiled cosecant minus 1 times cosecant plus 1?
Cosecant squared minus 1.
Cosecant squared minus 1. Okay, so if we look at this relationship that we just did, how can I turn this into cosecant squared minus 1?
Negative cotangent?
No,
Minus the 1.
just minus the 1 over. And then this would say cosecant squared minus 1 equals cotangent squared. So it's cotangent squared. Oh, I just remembered something. For some reason they did not put this in there, but we need it. Tangent. Actually, possibly past students have written this in their book because I told them to somewhere. Tangent is equal to sine over cosine. A little loud computer. Which means cotangent, what do you think cotangent would be equal to? Cosine over sine. It's kind of the same thing, but yeah. That's the other one I had memorized. Tangent is equal to sine over cosine. Okay, back to the number 3C. What's 1 over sine squared equal to? Well, from the beginning, what's 1 over sine equal to? You guys remember? 1 over sine is, somebody said it, cosecant. So what do you think 1 over sine squared is equal to? Cosecant squared. So that's what that first fraction on C is going to turn into. 1 over sine squared turns into cosecant squared. What's 1 over tangent squared going to turn into? Cotangent squared. Okay. So let's look back at this relationship they gave us. How can I turn this equation into cosecant squared minus cotangent squared? If I minus this cotangent squared over here, you gotta use your imaginations. This will say cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. Are you guys following me?
Yeah.
Do I need to write it out?
Yeah. He doesn't want to. We're starting together.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. Is that the Darth Vader line?
Yeah.
When he chokes somebody?
Yeah. You've never seen one Star Wars movie. I don't.
You watched it literally like
Then why are you over there saying, yeah, I don't know what's going on?
I don't feel like I fit in.
You're a fake fan.
The underling for Darth Vader's like, all that Force mumbo jumbo or witch doctor or something like that, like it's nonsense. And
Yeah.
Darth Vader goes, the guy's like, he's like, I find your lack of faith disturbing. Anyway,
He's never gonna see the movie.
I find your lack of imagination disturbing. That's what I was thinking. So you gotta subtract this over, so it looks like that, right? And then that's gone. So cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. 1. So anyway, let's put it over there. 1.
I like when you glance at it.
You're better than Trey.
It's 1 over sine squared? Oh.
Yeah.
Trey, didn't you see Shrek for the first time like a couple months ago?
Are you kidding me?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You didn't watch Shrek?
No, I did.
You did finally.
I tried to watch a Star Wars movie. It was too cringe to go all the way through. You were 5 minutes in.
The first 3 are really popular, like the The original
Oh,
movies are really popular. All the rest are kind of just
yeah.
goes downhill, but. So I think they call it episode 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, getting off topic here. So cosine, cotangent 90 minus theta. Did you guys see the cotangent 90 minus theta in one of those tables?
It was on 318.
On page 318. So what's cosine of 90 minus theta equal?
Sine.
Sine.
Uh,
So yeah, just use that table. So we got cosine of theta.
But isn't it under 1? Like 1 over cosine 90 minus theta?
Wait, am I looking at the right spot?
Yeah, oh.
Oh,
Looking at 4, my
I'm
bad.
looking at the wrong one. Sorry. Cotangent is equal to tangent. Cotangent of 90 minus theta is equal to tangent. What problem was I looking at? Oh, I was looking at number 4. Yes. Okay.
Doing the same thing.
Math anymore, guys.
Okay.
Math is not math right.
So, how do you multiply those together? Basically, if you can, you want to try to turn everything into sine and cosine. What's tangent turn into?
1 over
Sine over cosine. So if we multiply cosine, okay,
No, I don't have your clues.
what it started out is this. And Sam said there's a table on 318 that says what that's equal to, even though we were looking at the wrong problem. But cotangent turns into, on page 318, tangent. Basically, if it's a 90 degrees off, like if they change it by 90 degrees, it turns into its scale. Cosine goes with sine, tangent goes with cotangent, secant goes with cosecant.
Not retarded. Sometimes I think
Okay.
I think they're retarded.
That's not a good word to say.
That's a no-no word.
Not a good word.
That used to be like the standard word, and then people kept insulting each other with it. And then it became a bad word.
What's a good word then?
Mentally handicapped is the correct way.
What do you call it? What do you call it? The word? Good word.
Little.
Midget?
Not like a little person.
Dwarf is a technical term.
Yeah, just a little kid. No, there was one at Soho and I didn't see it.
Oh, Soho.
I walked outside to Soho to see him.
You like stared at him.
He was in a wife beater.
Wait, did you chase him?
You
I
shouldn't.
didn't. He was already outside of the restaurant when I walked
You
out.
should not stare at him, at least where they can tell.
Wait,
I
you walked
wasn't.
out
He
of the
was
restaurant
walking
and
this
went
way,
that
and
way?
I looked behind, and he was in front of me. So I was just looking outside.
When I was in college, occasionally there was a guy in the cafeteria who was 7'2", like 450 pounds.
That's crazy.
I
450.
Probably, he wasn't skinny. And when you're 7'2" and you're not skinny, that's a lot of
That's
weight.
scary.
It was hard not to stare.
7'2", that's almost 2 feet. Well, that guy in the NBA that's like 7'5". Yeah, he's like this.
The little Mignana guy?
Yeah, he's like 7'5".
7'3", but yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, so how are we going to multiply these together? So cosine is like cosine over 1. Yeah, these cosines will cancel out.
So it's
So it's going to equal sine over 1, which is just sine. Oh, we're still doing A, B's, and C's.
Yeah. I hate these questions.
Makes you feel like you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
They still count as 1 point each, so it's just like we're doing a lot of...
I'm almost
When it
done.
says 1 through 18, we're not really just doing 18 problems.
I use 2 columns.
I'm gonna try and do another column. It helps you draw your line before, that way you won't go into it. It's smart to do it that way. Strike the lines. Could you have
Okay.
something separate? I could produce something.
Kind kind of the trick with these problems is there's not like one way you do it every time. You just kind of play with it. But maybe like if you see something like this, hopefully it rings a bell. That's kind of a hint. What does this thing make you think of?
Sine.
Sine squared. Remember we kind of talked about it on number 1. 1 minus cosine squared can just turn into a sine squared. Okay, and do you guys know how cosecant and sine are related to each other?
One over.
They're reciprocals. This is like 1 over sine squared. So what's 1 over sine squared times sine squared? 1. They cancel out. So when you multiply reciprocals, reciprocal functions or whatever, it just equals 1.
It seems like a 2 days.
Seems like half a day to me. It's due in 2 minutes. Go.
Yeah.
And we're on 5.
We're not gonna make it. No, we're not gonna make it. Allison, I just like that there was lasagna in your dream for some reason.
I don't know why.
It has a deep psychological meaning, I'm sure.
And Ava was yelling at me from the car. She's like,
Ava, you just need to chill out.
Even in
What's
dreams.
funny is she really wanted to be driving anyways in the dream.
You weren't driving. I mean, she wasn't driving. It was you.
Oh, that's hard.
You had a Jeep.
Oh.
I lost my place. Secant minus cosine.
I'm really stuck about crashes. I think someone else.
No, I
So-
feel like I have a drive car.
Sebastian, remember that one right-hand turn you made? You like swerved out, it almost went in the middle lane.
Okay, any ideas for
Why
C?
Give me a second.
Any guesses what we might try?
Those are reciprocals.
They are, but that's not gonna help right now. Like what kind of problem does this look like if it was like numbers and letters and stuff?
Distribute.
Distribute. So let's try distribute. Distribute. Do you guys know what? Shh. You guys know what cosine times secant is?
1 cosine.
Okay. What do these two have in common? Secant is
Reciprocal.
the reciprocal. It's 1 over cosine. So what is cosine times 1 over cosine?
It's 1.
Is 1. Minus, what's cosine times cosine?
Cosine squared.
Cosine squared.
Equals sine minus 1.
Okay,
Sine.
1 minus cosine
Sine.
squared is
Stupid.
sine squared.
Call me named Sebastian.
Alright, why don't you guys try start 2, 4, 6.
2.